As I mentioned before, the emperor was very fond of sports and contests, and he just loved it when there was a contest between the strongest men in the army, or the strongest horsemen, or the best wrestlers. And he used to have many such contests in the Duana arm for his amusement and amusement of the people in his court. And one day he decided he was going to make a really, really big contest. So big that it had to be held outside the palace at night. Kind of like this. The contest was, he wanted to see who could stand chest deep in the river that ran by the palace from sunset until dawn. And it was real cold. This water came down from the mountain where it started as snow. So it was pretty cold water, and it was running fast. And so the strongest wrestlers and the strongest soldiers in the army started getting themselves ready, and they all rocked up the next day to the river just before sunset. And they got into their swimming costumes. They started rubbing oil all over their bodies and animal fat as some kind of insular agent, and also eating lots and lots of almonds, because it was believed that almonds warm the blood. And among the contestants there were wrestlers and soldiers and horsemen, and there was also a poor blacksmith who was kind of skinny, and he was not a particularly strong man, but he really needed the 50 gold coins prize that was being offered for whoever could stand chest deep in the river all night, because he wanted to send his son to go to one of the universities in Hindustan to become educated, so that he wouldn't get stuck in the cycle of poverty that his family was in. That was his only motivation, to get his family out of that and get his son educated. See what some parents do for education. And so the contestants, as the sun went down, they all stepped into the river, holding on tight with their toes and the balls of their feet, straining against the current, wading in until they were chest deep. And as the hours wore on through the night, and it got darker and darker, and the river seemed to get colder and colder, one by one men would get out. And as they came out, people would jump on them and cover them in blankets and carry them over to be next to a fire and try and warm them up again, because they were starting to turn blue and rigor mortis was starting to set in prematurely. And in the morning, there were only 3 men left in the river as the sun was starting to come up: a soldier, a wrestler, and the poor blacksmith. He didn't have almonds, and he didn't rub animal fat on his body. The only thing keeping him in that river was his determination to get his son educated. The soldier got out first. He couldn't stand it. The wrestler was starting to turn blue. His teeth were chattering until they started to fall out. And then finally he tried to get out, but he just couldn't move his body, and the men had to run into the river and pull him out, wrap him in all the blankets they had left. And a big cheer went up for the blacksmith. He was the winner, and he had to be carried out of the river. And they carried him down the street, and people threw blankets from windows of their houses at him to try and warm the man up until he was almost suffocated by blankets. And the emperor stood on one of the balconies, and he watched the procession as they carried the man towards the gates of the palace to receive his prize after he'd recovered. And he said, "How nice that the prize was won by one of our poorer subjects and one of our weaker subjects. I wonder what kept this man warm while other men almost froze to death in the river." And one of his advisors, nasty little fellow, said to the emperor, "You know, Your Majesty, I think it's very unfair that this man takes the prize. I think he should go to that wrestler who came out second last, because this blacksmith, he cheated." "Cheated? How did he cheat?" said the emperor. He said, "Your Majesty, the river runs past your bedroom window and your balcony, in which you have a lantern, and No doubt he stood in the river and stared at the lantern in your balcony all night. He drew warmth from that, from the royal lantern, warmed him in the river. Said the Emperor. Yes, that would give him an unfair advantage over the others, I suppose. I'll have to think about it. And he went down to the Duana Arm to wait in his throne. He thought about it, whether he would award it to this blacksmith or whether he would disqualify him and award it to the wrestler. It was a difficult decision. He sent a couple of runners up to the apartment of Raj Babal to bring him down, to help him make his decision. The runners were gone for quite a while, and finally they came back and they said, Your Majesty, he's up on your balcony cooking biryani. Cooking biryani on my balcony? Yes, he was thinking to have a little picnic there looking at the river, and he's cooking it on the balcony. Oh. He said, all right, we'll give him a little while, let him have his little picnic, and then, because he respected Raj Babal, and this was, the first time he'd ever done something like this, so he gave him the benefit of the doubt. No, that's all right. The time started to wear on, and he wanted to give an announcement to the people about who the winner would be. He sent the runners up again. He said, go to my balcony and see if he's finished his curry. The runners went up and they came back again and said, Your Majesty, he's still waiting for the curry to cook. He hasn't even eaten it yet. He said, tell the man to hurry up. Biryani does not take this long to cook. Why doesn't he get married and get a wife to do it for him? Oh, this was 800 years ago. Finally, the Emperor got sick of waiting. He got up from his throne, stormed up the stairs into his bedroom, out to the balcony, and there was Raj Babal, sitting on the balcony with a pot. All the ingredients are in there, and no fire underneath. He said, what are you doing, man? No wonder I'm waiting for you. How you get a cooked curry, or biryani, in a pot, with no fire under it? He said, I don't need a fire, Jahanpana. I put it underneath your lantern. I mean, if it's warm enough to warm up a man standing chest deep in the river down there, it surely must be hot enough to cook my curry if I'm right under it. The Emperor scratched his beard again. Said, come. And he took a string of pearls from around his neck and put it around the neck of Raj Babal. Said, it's a gift for you, and you can have the great pleasure of awarding 100 gold coins to the poor blacksmith for his son's education. Such was the reputation of the Emperor.